welcome to this wind down. Like I'm like eye contact. You're like, what's up? Get the juice. What's up, beautiful people? Welcome back to my channel. On today's video, we are going to be having a relationship conversation. We have our friends Franck and my sorority sister, bridesmaid Jasmine, who are going to be asking us some relationship questions. So join in on the conversation and let's see where it goes.
First and foremost, I do want to say that it's a pleasure to be here. Delores, thank you for having me. Charles, thank you for having me. I've known you guys both for almost over 8 years now. In fact, we've been together. It's actually more than 10 years.
Yeah, love it.
We've been together for more than 8 years.
Yeah.
And really thinking about the spots of marriage, right? I mean, for a lot of us, me as a single person, it's a little scary, right? So,
Me too.
right. How do you go about navigating through that decision-making process, right? And especially when you've been with someone for so long, and I'm sure you know the person that's the one. How do you get to that next step, and how do you become firm and really confident in that decision?
I think you're never really confident in the decision because it's like an unknown territory. Like, we've never been married, we've never been engaged, we've never been in a relationship as long as the one we're in. So I think every day is like a new journey of trying to figure it out. So I don't think we're ever confident in it, but I think what we are confident in is that we want a lifelong, healthy relationship. So we make mistakes, we're human, but I think we're constantly working towards trying to be better for each other.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's, I think after going through this journey and seeing all the, not only just the good things, but also the tough times as well, and just seeing how we responded to it, I think that's what's been helpful in building our foundation for our marriage, so that we can use a lot of the skills that we've already picked up to be able to address anything that comes our way during marriage. And yeah, I mean, it's not an easy decision. I think it's something that you and your partner should both have some conversation about. But I think we pretty much kind of agreed that we were heading towards that point. But I was the one who eventually proposed, and yeah, it was a little nerve-wracking, but I was confident in that we were going to be a successful couple.
So I think a lot of times, like for couples that are actually single, or that are dating, or that are getting to know each other, there's a lot of fears, a lot of barriers that oftentimes we don't know how to navigate through those making processes. So Charles, if you will, please expand on that.
So I think for me it was, I guess every guy or whoever partner, has their kind of thought process about when they feel like they're ready to get married, start a family and such. And that is different for everybody. For me, I think a part of it has to go with just my upbringing and just seeing the men in my family being able to support their wives, and that was important to me. So I wanted to be in a part of my life where I knew that I could support us as a family and be able to take care of us. And for me, that time was going to be toward the end of my residency. So at that point, I was going to be progressing towards getting a new job, be able to start paying back some loans, and I wanted to be able to, again, be supportive to Delores. So that was probably the time where I thought, okay, I think we're at a point where I feel like we can start talking about marriage.
I think the biggest question that a lot of us would like to know is that, how did you know she was the one?
Yeah, specifically me.
Yeah. There's a billion, but there's only one Delores. So how did you know that Delores was the
one me?
So yeah, it's funny that you asked that, because truth be told, I didn't really date much at all. Like Delores is probably the only second girlfriend I've ever had in my life. And some people may argue, well, again, how do you really know? And I don't know. I think knowing that like she's someone that doesn't really add stress to my life, she just makes me a better person and listens to me.
Yeah, I'd be thinking I'm going crazy sometimes.
Oh, I mean, you do. I've just gotten used to it. But you just add so much to my life, and you make me feel good. You're good around my family, and you don't always have that with everyone. And I just saw so many good things from our relationship that I felt like I didn't really have to look any further. I was happy, so
Wow, I'm getting goosebumps. I'm sorry. I think it's
It's
a little much, man.
It's okay. You asked a deep question, you get a deep answer.
Everything popped up.
You see, man. Jasmine, in your case, how would you know that? How would you know the one? Essentially, Delores, how did you know Charles was the one?
You mean like for me or for her?
No, for you.
For
Like,
me,
how would you know someone is the one, right?
I wouldn't know.
Yes.
I feel like if I was in another relationship, I feel like I did have a long-term relationship, but it wasn't exactly a healthy one. And I don't feel like I grew as a person with that person. I felt like I grew more once I was separated from him. I feel like for what I want now, I feel like if I find someone who makes me want to be a better person and to constantly like work and like motivates me, encourages me, supports my craft, then that's someone who I would want to spend more time with. And I feel like over time that would show me where I want to be. But until then, like I don't know. But like when I think about them, patience, right? Like especially with you, your patience, and you know, really like wanting to learn more about each other, and like the wait, really. And that's what I felt like you both knew that you were in it. So it's been my bro for years, so I just knew. You know, y'all taught me patience.
Yeah. And even
but
like
what do you mean by when you say patience though? Would you further elaborate on that?
Well, they both pursued their PhDs, right? And also long-term, like long-distance relationships, making it work. So I feel like that with that comes patience, knowing that each other is going to be busy with like, you know, studying and working and really trying to like work out those stressors and still making time for one another. So it's just like fitting that in your schedule. But like for me, when I keep going, like I want my time. This is how I'm going to do it. I don't know if I can give that time to you, but that's because I'm single and I'm selfish. But when you're with somebody, it's taking that, like making sure that you're still adding to them, that you're still checking on them, make sure that their needs are met, and that you know they know that you have them. You know that you have their back, and that's what you did for each other. You made it work. You know, the traveling and like the time, communication, and everything. Like you made it work for years, so you were definitely invested.
And Jazz knows, and even I think Franck knows that it's not easy. I think sometimes we look back and we're like, "Ooh, it's easy," but like Jasmine said, like we made it work, and making it work is an act of work. Like we have to constantly be making it work. And there's been times that I've had to tell Charles how I want to be loved or what it takes for me to feel seen and heard and wanted. And I've had to be like, I know you're studying, but if you want to be in this relationship, if this is a choice that we're making to be in a relationship, this is what I need. And I don't think I've ever asked for too much, but it's just the common like be present in the moments that we're being present. And there's times that Charles has even had to say, because I get distracted in all my different projects where he's like, hello, woohoo, I'm here, be present, this is our time. So I think what Jasmine said was like, we have to make it work. And I think people, especially like young couples of today, forget that relationships are work and it's gonna take work. And I think when things start getting hard, that's when couples that had good potential start separating, because they're like, oh, this is hard, I'm not trying to, you know, I can just scroll through Instagram as easily or scroll through Hinge as easily. When it's like, no, this could be your one. You just got to be willing to make it work and hear what the person's needs are and meet in the middle somewhere.
And also you kept dating.
Yeah.
So having a movie nights and then buying food for one another, you know what I mean? Small things like, oh, okay, well, I know you had hard days, so I'm sending food your way. Like I remember when she would order you pizza, right?
Yeah.
And just small things like that. Like it's like, oh my God, like just being considerate and like still dating. Everyone falls into patterns, so it's just like, okay, look, we know we have a pattern, but I'm still gonna show up for you in the best way I know how. So we definitely like, showed up for each other.
So and it's a perfect segue into another question that I have for you, Delores. So in terms of like making sure that you are meeting his needs, right? Knowing that there was so much going on in his life at that particular time, and you also had your own needs, right? So
sorry, I said that real hard.
So, everyone, Jasmine made a great point about the importance of really being intentional and putting in the work and the effort to making sure the relationship is actually working. So what the audience, I'm sure, would like to know is when you and Charles were dating, and particularly when Charles was in med school and you were obviously in a PhD school, or doctoral school rather, so how do you go about being intentional and nurturing the relationship and still making sure that your needs are being met? I'm sure there are times when you could have only seen each other maybe once a month or once every other month. That's tough, right? So why don't you further elaborate and expand on that?
Yeah. So again, it hasn't been an easy 8 years, especially long distance. So we only had 1 year of being in the same state, and that was when in college during our first year being in a relationship. So it hasn't been easy. There are moments that I made plenty of mistakes, but But I think for me, I just really wanted a healthy marriage. So I was looking at the end goal. I wanted a healthy marriage, and so I was willing to put in the work even though I was making mistakes. But I think also I give a lot of credit to Charles. So Charles made sure that I was also looking inward and would advocate for me to go through therapy and really tackle generational curses and trauma and really look at that, because I think that also, a lot of times we don't realize it because we're like, oh, I don't want to be like people, you know, that went before me, but then we end up showing it in our relationships without realizing it. So going through therapy really helped me start tackling those things that really had nothing to do with Charles, but it made me face it. So I think therapy was one big intentional thing that I still do, and I'm still learning. I think two, learning his love language and learning what makes him feel good. So him, physical touch when we are together. Gifts is another one that is his. So I would make care packages, and his gifts aren't even like, he doesn't need anything name brand, but just things that are just really thoughtful. So like giving him a care basket of like his favorite snacks or something Seton Hall, anything Seton Hall, he's down. But just anything like gifts makes him happy. But then also when we're talking quality time, I don't think that ranks as your love language, but it's important to him. Like when we're on the phone, he really wants me to be present. He really wants me to hear his conversation. I think another big game changer for us was realizing that being in a relationship is a choice. So when I first started saying that to Charles, he'd be like, what you mean it's a choice? But I'm like, it's a choice. We don't gotta be together. Like, let's choose each other every day. And I think when you start to choose each other every day, you start to do actions to realize like, Charles can leave me tomorrow. I can decide I don't want to do this anymore. Of course, we don't want that to go like that. But let's be intentional. Let's think about what do we need to do so that he chooses me today and tomorrow. What do I need to do to be a little bit more gentle with him, a little bit more kind? Or maybe I went crazy that day, but what can I do the next day so that he chooses me and wants to be my friend? Because I think if you have a friendship and you like each other, then the love is like already there. But I think when couples stop liking each other and stop being friends, that's when things start getting shaky because there's no communication.
So as you're talking to Jasmine as your friend, Jasmine who's not yet married, right?
No.
And so what advice would you say, what would you tell her about her next step? How about the phase of singleness, one, and beyond that, relationship, and even further if she wants to pursue marriage at some point, what would you tell her? What exactly would you tell her about the importance of dating, singleness, and ultimately being in a relation and being married?
She knows me very well.
So I already think my sis is the bomb.com. So if you're coming for her, make sure you come correct. But I would say to my sis, like, one, getting to know herself. So she spent time getting to know herself. I think that's big for anybody in their singleness, is working inwards and getting to know yourself. And I think we constantly evolve, so that's a lifelong thing. I think two, being willing to compromise. Sometimes we see compromise as settling down, or not settling down. Losing. Yeah. But I think sometimes if we're willing to compromise, so there's certain things that we say like I want in a relationship, and I think you should have some of those things, but I think you should also reevaluate like what are those things that really could be changed over. So there were things with Charles where I'm like, I don't know about Charles, but then my friends made me realize like you're looking at things that are more superficial, that don't matter in finding a husband. And so I think for my friends and Jasmine, I would say like, look at the moments where you can compromise, and there will be moments where you have to kind of not lose yourself, but kind of give some of yourself for whatever he's going to pour back into you, and be okay with that. And I think for us, especially as women who have come into our own and finally found the confidence in who we are, it is hard to give of ourselves because it's like, I worked hard to be who I am. Yeah. But I think it's sometimes we have to realize that we have to give a little bit of ourselves, in hopes that that man, if he is the man, that he'll be pouring whatever that back into you. Sure. So it's give and take. It's not just you giving and compromising and nothing's coming back. So I think that's what I would tell my single friends. Be open, because you never know who he is and who. I think sometimes God gives us what we need, not necessarily what's on our list.
I haven't got what I need in months.
What is that?
It's coming. Oh yeah, I like that. What is that? What you need, sis?
What I need?
Yeah.
Someone who wants to like help me and watch me grow, support me. You know what I mean? Like support is really hard, especially with my craft. So I need someone who's like secure with themselves. Like, you know, or also it's also willing like to put in the time, but you know.
Yeah. You know, and that's one of her love languages. I think is quality time. Is quality time yours? I feel like you enjoy quality time, like someone that's intentional and being present.
Yes. And also, well, I feel like I have 3.
What are your 3?
You can have as many as you want.
Quality time, acts of service.
Yes.
Because I do a lot. So for someone to come and like, okay, you're stressing about this, let me help you with this. That relieves, like, because I have anxiety, so that relieves a lot of stress off of me. And also receiving gifts.
Yes.
I like gifts.
Yes.
That's awesome.
But yeah.
Acts of service is huge for me, and I think for both of us, because we've been doing so much on our own for so long. A lot of times it's not that we literally need you or want you to do it, but it's just the thought of asking.
Because
you know,
you want
just
to.
showing that you
Not
want
because
to.
you have
Like,
to.
hey, do you need help with that?
Right.
To me, that's everything. Even if I don't need help, it's just the thought of you asking is big.
And I do want to get into another segment and talk about communication based on that point. But I do want to ask Charles, that I do want to give him an opportunity to give the single men out there some advice as well. Just like Delores talked to Jasmine about some of the key points and things to consider in finding a husband, what would you say for men in our preparation to having a wife?
I would say to not be, in so much of a rush to try to find the next person if you are not secure with yourself first. I think you have to take that time to enjoy being by yourself and making sure that you are straight with whatever you're dealing with in your life before you progress into a relationship. And then, I think sometimes we're in so much of a rush to get to that point that we end up with someone who's not necessarily good for us. And when Delores and I got together, it wasn't betting on it. Like, it wasn't like I was like actively like searching or anything. It kind of just happened. And I feel like literally, not to say that's not always the case, I feel like a lot of the most successful relationships I've seen, like, it just kind of happens like spontaneously. Like, it's someone that you are cool with, you become friends. And I think that's important too. I think you should become friends first with the person that you're eventually going to spend your life with, because you really got to enjoy being around that person. You're going to be around that person for life. So
I just want to say to my ladies, you are enough. I think
Yes.
a lot of times people, we're constantly being told, like, maybe try this way or do this way. You are enough.
Yeah.
Keep pouring into yourself. Keep reading the Bible, doing devotionals, and doing what you love. You are enough, and I think the right guy will see that. But when that right guy comes, just be open-minded, because it is work.
Right, and it's not that you even necessarily have to be in a relationship if it's not something that you want.
Right.
Like, I think sometimes, especially in society, especially probably even more with women, is that I feel like sometimes we say that we feel that like you're not successful enough if you're not in a relationship, and that's not true. For some people, that's not what they desire. So, you should be doing. If you want to be in a relationship, that's great. If you don't, that's fine too. But just make sure you're doing whatever makes you happy.
Incredible.
Any final words to our moderator? You did an excellent
Absolutely.
job.
Thank you very much. I do have one final question for you both. What is your biggest desire for your marriage?
Longevity. I want this to be a forever thing, and a healthy forever thing where we're creating. So I'm going to say longevity and legacy. I want to leave a legacy for our great-great-grandchildren to be proud of what we created for them, and I want this to be a long-term thing, which I guess is legacy.
I would say the same thing.
You sure you was going to say that?
Babies.
Yes, lots of babies, fertility.
That's a babies, huh?
Wait, what?
Oh.
I'm joking.
He's the one that's been saying, he's been saying, I want a baby.
You want a baby?
I mean, not tomorrow, but.
Wrap it up. I think that so I want to thank you both. I want to thank all of you actually for taking part, for being one of our panelists. I do wish I had more time to ask the representation of our single people here.
You
I'm
too.
the worst single person to ask.
Moderators will ask questions.
I'm like the worst single person to ask right now. My bro knows. I'm the worst single person to ask right now.
Well, we're on the crunch for time. We only have 1 minute, so we do want to thank each and every one of you for being part of this wonderful panel. But more importantly, I'm just so incredibly proud of both you and Delores and Charles and people that you've become and people that you will continue to become as part of your journey. I've seen you both from day one as freshmen, Delores, and Charles as a sophomore.
That was a hot mess.
And
That's the lamb, I appreciate it.
we all on a journey of progression, right? And so I just want to congratulate you both, and I just want to urge you both to continue to be intentional and loving one another. And if you don't mind, by closing and saying, what is your understanding of love?
deep
At
one.
And-
Can we do
hey,
that one
okay,
later?
next time.
Okay.
But
Follow
yeah, presentation
up.
of loving you. Alright, so thank you everybody.
Thanks for watching. Cheers.
Cheers.
Clink, clink. Clink, clink. That's your clink, clink.
Bye-bye.